UHD quality video streaming, internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber. UHD quality video streaming, internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber.
නව ඩොමෙක්ස් වැල්ලම් සහ විසබීජ අවම කර දින 3ක් දක්වා ටොයිලට් එක ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ව තමයි ඩොමෙක්ස්.
Tonight, figure it out. The Energy Minister rubbishes fuel rationing talk and asks the CEB to get its house in order. Meanwhile, the CEB looks cornered into purchasing power from the private sector.
They should come forward and explain why they fail to inform us well in advance. Imagine a situation where there is no fuel at the fuel pumping stations.
Seeing potential. Can Sri Lankan coffee become the next big thing?
Sri Lanka has exported nearly 130,000 kg of coffee in various varieties and earned 159 million of Sri Lankan currency.
Tall order. Coconut exporters issue a laundry list to achieve $1 billion revenue.
Keep the estate coconut price around 55 to 60 rupees and per kilo of coconut kernel delivered to the factories at about 80 to 90 rupees. So we can be competitive in the international market.
Red alert. Afghanistan's envoy in Colombo warns of new moves to destroy the Bamiyan Buddha statues. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Sunday, the 30th of January 2022.
පියක් දක්වා ඉස්සොරින් නැති 100ක් සුසිනිඳු කෙස් කලමක් ලබා දෙයි. Dove Anti-Dandruff.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanai. Minister of Energy Uday Gammampila once more shot down the notion of fuel rationing instead of power cuts, saying that there will be anarchy if people are to be deprived of their means of access to essential services. His comments come at a time when the Ministry of Power has revealed that it is in negotiations with the LIOC to obtain fuel for electricity generation, with cabinet approval also sought for power purchases from private plants. Sri Lanka's woes pertaining to power generation, intertwined with the forex troubles, have become international headline makers. Though some of them may be highly exaggerated, the ground situation is quite simple. Whether to implement a daily power cut of 2 hours or to somehow source dollars and buy fuel and provide the people with an uninterrupted supply of electricity.
දැනට අපිට තෙල් සැපීම කරනවා සමුදා ඉඳලා බලන්න ඕනේ ඊළඟ සතිය වෙනකන් තෙල් ටික කොහොමද දැන් විදුලිය විසන්ධි කරගෙන තොරව පවත්වාගෙන යන්න තමයි අපි කටයුතු කරන්නේ ඒක තමයි ජනාධිපතිතුමා අපිට කියලා තියෙන්නේ විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය ඒ වෙනුවෙන් කටයුතු කරන්නේ තෙල් සංස්ථාවත් ඒ අනුව කටයුතු කරනවා ඊට අමතරව තෙල් සංස්ථාව අපිට අවසර දීලා තියෙනවා ඍජුවම තෙල් ගේනවා නම් ඒ ගේනවා ඒ පිළිබඳව අපි සාකච්ඡා කරනවා මං හිතන්නේ ඉන්දියන් ඔයිල් සමාගමෙන් අපිට තෙල් ප්‍රමාණයක් ලබා දෙන්න කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ මුදල් අමාත්‍යාංශයත් එක්ක අපි සාකච්ඡා කරගෙන
Presently, our monthly export income is around $1,000 million. Out of this $1,000 million, we receive only $750 million to our banking system because of the prevailing exchange rate. There is a huge black market. As a result, we get to around $750 million. Present our fuel bill, that is only for transportation and industrial purposes, is around $400 million. We need another $100 million to meet the demand of the power sector. All in all, we need $500 million out of $750 million to meet the energy requirement of the country. That is something we can't really bear.
It is now common knowledge that the Ceylon Electricity Board blindsided the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation when it suddenly asked for fuel without providing notice in advance towards the early part of the month. A spat between the relevant ministries also ensued over the matter, with the internal issues going public.
They should have planned this well in advance. We have warned them about this situation since last September, orally at our stock review meetings, for which of course SEBI will also participate. In addition to that, chairman of the Petroleum Corporation has written to the CEB chairman. Similarly, my ministerial secretary wrote to her counterpart and I wrote to my counterpart. So all document evidence are available. So they should come forward and explain why they failed to inform us well in advance for us to follow the procurement procedure as well as to arrange the much needed foreign currency.
With fuel supply for power generation and uncertainty, a key 300 megawatt generator at the Norochale coal power plant still under repair and a dry season looming, the Ministry of Power is now pushed into a corner where it is having to do something which under this government it had largely resisted.
එන සෞන්ද කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයට දීලා තියෙනවා පෞද්ගලික බලාගාරවලුනුත් අපිට කෙටි කාලීන විදුලි ලබා ගන්න වැඩපිළිවෙල ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න අවසර ඉල්ලලා තියෙනවා.
Amid this rumbling saga, some people have called for a fuel rationing which would affect the transport sector. Speaking to an Indian media outlet, the Minister of Energy articulated as to how the move would equate to shooting oneself on the foot.
Power sector is a control sector. Electricity board can announce we will provide electricity for 24 hours, 1 hour power cut, 2 hour power cut, so on. But in transportation sector, either you have fuel at the fuel pumping station or you don't have fuel at the fuel pumping station. There you can control to different degrees. Here only two extremes, either you have or have not. Because of that, supplying fuel to transportation sector is extremely crucial because imagine a situation where there is no fuel at the fuel pumping stations. Doctors can't reach the patients, patient can't go to the hospitals, and everybody can move only your walking distance. Then country would be anarchical. Cutting electricity for an hour or two is a situation people are used to in the past, as well as they somehow with great difficulty. They may blame the government, but they would bear.
With there being year-round sunshine, Sri Lanka should have and could have made the pivot towards solar power a long time ago. Though domestic solar systems were promoted, people's fears and some of CEB's failings meant that it didn't catch on. But now it looks like the penny has finally dropped, at least as far as the government is concerned.
අපි ලබන මාසෙ වෙනකොට ආරම්භ කරනවා සෝලාර් විදුලිය නිෂ්පාදනය මෙගාවට් 50ට වැඩියෙන් ආයෝජනය කරන්න කැමති 50ක් විතර අපි තෝරලා ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඒ කටයුතු කරන්න බාර දෙනවා.
Now, 20 years after the destruction of the 1,500-year-old Bamiyan Buddha statues in Afghanistan by the Taliban, warnings are being issued of signs of the movement's intention to finish the job. Afghanistan's ambassador in Sri Lanka, Ashraf Haider, issued a call for diplomatic measures to prevent any further destruction of the site, citing a foreign media report that first broke the story. The report had warned that plans were afoot to destroy the remainder of the statues and loot artifacts for smuggling into Pakistan for legal sale.
Afghanistan's ambassador in Colombo, M. Ashraf Haidari, has called attention on what he warns are signs of the Taliban government seeking to destroy what remains of the World Heritage Bamiyan Buddha statues. Back in March 2001, the Taliban, who were then in control of most part of Afghanistan and engaged in conflict with US allied forces, shocked the world with their much publicized demolition of the 1,500-year-old statues. The wanton destruction was described as a crime against world historical and cultural heritage. The Taliban movement had at the time issued a decree ordering the elimination of all non-Islamic statues and sanctuaries in Afghanistan. Ultimately, using a combination of tank artillery, rockets and dynamite, the two statues, one 38 meters tall and the other 55 meters tall, were completely destroyed, leaving only their grottos behind. Taking to social media, Ambassador Haidari warned that according to a foreign media report, evidence was mounting of Taliban plans to complete the destruction of what remained of the site. The Afghan envoy also recalled President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's appeal at the United Nations to the international community to help ensure the protection of Afghanistan's Buddhist heritage, which he adds was warmly welcomed by Afghans across the world. The envoy warned, however, that he fears that the Taliban may at any moment destroy the remainder of the statues while looting any related artifacts for smuggling into Pakistan for illicit sale. The ambassador also called on the diplomatic community to raise their concerns about the safety and protection of the statues at upcoming meetings with the Taliban leadership and hold them to their obligations under the 1954 Hague Convention.
Sri Sri Lankan coconut product exporters want government intervention on several issues in order to achieve an export revenue of over $1 billion this year. Last year, the sector achieved $836.1 million, their highest export revenue in history. Now, the producers are asking for a fluctuating duty structure with a fixed price for estate coconuts, as well as for a kilogram of kernel delivered to factories. Last year was a successful year for the country's export sector due to the resilience they showed despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The sector recorded $15.12 billion, of which $12.47 billion came from merchandise exports, while $2.64 billion was from services exports. Coconut, with plantations spanning for over 443,528 hectares across the island, has also recorded an increase in their export revenue. Since 2015, the export revenue generated by the coconut sector has been on the rise. And for the year 2021, the coconut export revenue was $836.1 million, which is an increase of $171.52 million when compared to the year 2020. Coconut export proceeds of 2021 is also the highest ever for the sector. What's more, they have contributed 6.83% of merchandise exports during the year 2021. Out of the $836.1 million, 52% of the revenue came from coconut kernel products, which amounted to $434.57 million. Further, 29.7% of revenue, amounting to $248.35 million, came from coconut fiber products, while the remaining 18.3% came from coconut shell products, with $153.18 million. The major export destination of Sri Lankan coconut products is the United States, with $152.65 million earned. Next was Germany with $65.11 million, while Netherlands came in at third with $61.69 million. Meanwhile, industry stakeholders say that they are optimistic this year of achieving higher revenue than last year. However, government support will be critical.
This year, even last year, we requested the government to have a fluctuational duty structure. Therefore, the estate owner also gets a fair price required by them to maintain the estates due to the shortage of high prices of fertilizer, and also for us manufacturers, exporters to be competitive in the international market. So far, the fluctuational duty structure has been requested by the plantation industries ministry, both ministers. Nothing has happened so far. We look forward for the government to take immediate action. Otherwise, we will lose the bus if there is a shortage, and also if the coconut prices go up, we will not be able to be competitive in the international market because other origins are very much cheaper. This year, also we expect to achieve a higher target, more than $1 billion. That is only if the coconuts are available and in the industry for the manufacturing of kernel products. We look forward this year the freight rates to come down. Therefore, if the government is interested in achieving those targets, getting the necessary dollars to the country, government has to immediately reduce the duty that has been imposed on palm oil and coconut oil to the country. We are requesting the government to keep the coconut price, estate coconut price, around 55 to 60 rupees, and per kilo of coconut kernel delivered to the factories at about 80 to 90 rupees, so we can be competitive in the international market. Plantation Ministry is doing their utmost. Coconut Development Authority and Coconut Research Institute is doing their best, and they have proposed a fluctuational duty structure, but the Finance Ministry has not taken the necessary action to implement this. So if these delays are going to take place, we will lose the Eastern market and also the Middle East market in the coming few months, that where we can capture a good size of the international market.
Now then, Sri Lanka's relationship with coffee goes back further than its most lucrative export crop, Ceylon tea. However, now the spotlight seems to be slowly but surely focusing on Sri Lankan coffee once more, with some very positive comments from foreign experts at the country's first coffee festival last week. The Export Development Board, meanwhile, says that it has set the groundwork to boost the industry and help the majority smallholder growers produce a world-class product once more.
Sri Lanka's first ever coffee festival was held last week in efforts to focus attention on Sri Lanka's fledgling coffee industry that has been getting quite some recognition of its unique legacy. Last year alone, unbeknownst to all but a few, Sri Lanka showed comforting numbers despite 80% of growers being smallholders. According to the Director General of Sri Lanka Customs, Major General Vijitha Ravipriya, there's a lot of room to grow.
Now, when it comes to exports, indeed, although you said that it's a new commodity, it has not been a new commodity. I mean, just to make you aware of the statistics available with me for year 2021, Sri Lanka has exported nearly 130,507 kg of coffee in various varieties and earned 159 million of Sri Lankan currency. So this has indicated that the Sri Lanka has been involved in coffee trade, but not in much.
Meanwhile, Export Development Board Chairman Suresh Dimel outlined measures the authority is implementing in order to ensure better quality of the product coming out through smallholders.
One of the first initiatives that I had to undertake to joining the Export Development Board was the Export Processing Villages project, and the first product was coffee. How this came to be was that an exporter came and told us that they were having trouble with supply, and then we identified what the issues were, and one of the big issues was that they were not getting consistent quality. Now, this is where the Export Development Board came in to identify the quality, sort of to get consistent. 80% of our production of coffee is through the smallholders, and their access to good plant material was not very good. So we decided to form a sort of a formal association called an Export Processing Village, formed 15 or 16 different farmer groups, and we gave them the plant material. We are supposed to give altogether identified about 500,000 plants, and at the moment we have already given 150,000 plants to 6 villagers that are working with an exporter. And that's the key to our intervention, is that these export processing villages have to be attached to exporter.
We will see you shortly on the other side of this break. Stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the Tri-Forces are set to launch a mobile vaccination program tomorrow in a bid to increase the island's booster dose recipients. Health experts have been calling on the people to get the booster dose as quickly as possible, with local studies confirming that the new variant Omicron has taken over the island, with the variant being responsible for 95% of COVID infections found in the country. Meanwhile, there are also reports emerging of a new coronavirus called neocov, which has split the scientific community. Meanwhile, news just came in, or in fact not so long ago, that 1,056 COVID cases were reported for the day, crossing the 1,000 mark after a relatively long time. Reports of a discovery of a new coronavirus among bats is doing the rounds at present. Called neocov, the virus was found by a group of scientists from China in South Africa. Reports say that neocov has a high death rate and transmission rate, and that 1 in 3 people infected could die from it. Neocov is said to have traits of the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or the MERS-CoV, which originated in Saudi Arabia in 2012, and the virus SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. Scientists, however, say that neocov is not new, as its outbreaks have been previously reported in the Middle East region in the years of 2012 and 2015. Some studies say that current COVID-19 vaccinations are inadequate to protect humans from the eventuality of the infection caused by this virus. But scientists are in fact divided on the dangers posed by neocov. With it yet to be discovered in humans, the World Health Organization is of the view that whether neocov will pose a risk for humans will require further study. In the meantime, on the COVID-19 front in Sri Lanka, the daily caseload has been gradually rising across almost over the last 2 weeks. The daily COVID caseload, which once plateaued between 400 and 600, was up to 982 yesterday. The development comes at the heels of various warnings from health experts that a new wave would be imminent, owing to the increased social mixing and the emergence of the new variant Omicron. If the eligible population has at least received the booster dose, the new wave flooding the health system and overwhelming it could be staved off. But there lies the concern. Though the booster was rolled out from the 1st of November last year, only 5,165,184 persons have obtained it across the 3 months. In a bid to address this situation, the Tri-Forces will be launching an island-wide mobile vaccination program tomorrow.
හෙටින් පටන් ගන්න සතියේදී අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා රජයේ ආයතන වලට පවා ගොස් ඒ ස්ථානවලදී ජංගම එන්නත් කරන මධ්‍යස්ථාන පිහිටවලා එන්නත් කරණය කිරීමටත් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. එපමණක් නොවේ මහ ජනතාව රැස් වෙන ප්‍රධාන ස්ථානවලට පවා ගොස් ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදා යොදවලා මේ එන්නත් කරණය දියුණු කිරීම සඳහා කළ හැකි උපරිමය යුද හමුදා ප්‍රමුඛ ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවෙන් කිරීමටත් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
As for the two-dose vaccination regime, 13,915,137 persons had been completely inoculated by last evening, which amounts to 63.5% of the country's total population. In other local news, 5 individuals have been arrested at the Bandaranaike International Airport by customs officials while attempting to smuggle large sums of foreign currency out of the country. The arrests made yesterday is the result of a lengthy probe by the Narcotics Control Unit of Sri Lanka Customs. A customs spokesperson said that foreign currency amounting to around 25 million rupees in value were found concealed inside the luggage of the arrested persons. He added that the suspects were prepared to board a flight to Dubai yesterday when they were apprehended. The seized foreign currency include $95,000, 18,000 euros and 37,000 Saudi riyals. Sri Lanka Customs are conducting further investigations. Now then, market analysts expect volatility in the Colombo Stock Exchange during the week of trading that will start from tomorrow. Last Friday, the all-share price index ended down 0.18% at 12,863.14, posting its fourth straight session of losses. The S&P SL 20 index of more liquid stocks ended down 0.46% to close at 4,380.55 points. Now let's have a look at what we can expect at the stock exchange in the coming week.
Last week, we saw market is continuously coming down with the prevailing negative and cautious sentiment by the investors despite stronger earnings released by companies. Turnover and number of trades were also mostly into the moderate side, while the turnover was mainly driven by sectors such as transportation, food, beverage and tobacco sector and capital goods sectors. So next week also we can expect some volatilities in the market led by the uncertainties. However, with the gradual release in earnings, market is expected to gradually bounce back and move into the green zone. We expect interest to mainly expected to banking and life insurance companies, which are going to benefit from the rise in interest rates and are also dollar income companies.
Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said today that NATO has no plans to deploy combat troops to non-NATO member Ukraine in the event of a Russian invasion. Asked by media personnel whether he would rule out putting NATO troops in Ukraine if Russia does invade, Stoltenberg said that no such plans exist. However, he did confirm that NATO allies have trainers in the country and added that help is there in the form of building capacity, modernizing defenses, including their cyber defenses equipment and other defensive weapons. Stoltenberg also emphasized the limits of NATO's partnership with Ukraine, stating that the security guarantees that an attack on one ally will trigger a response from the whole alliance does not apply to Ukraine, since it is not a NATO ally. Britain's Foreign Secretary, meanwhile, has also been quoted that it is very unlikely British soldiers would be sent to fight alongside Ukrainian troops in the event of a Russian invasion, adding that it was highly likely Russia was looking to invade Ukraine. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.